it's quite challenging for me to talk about Hampstead, the 2017 film directed by Joel Hopkins and written by Robert Festinger, starring, of course, Brendan Gleeson and Diane Keaton. The reason this is hard for me to talk about is because, first of all, I live in Hampstead. But not only do I live in Hampstead, I worship Hampstead. You know, I'm not originally from here. I first started visiting here in 2013, fell in love with it. Now my novels are set here. I used to visit here every other weekend. I'm very passionate about Hampstead. And then the film was announced and I was nervous, but also very excited. And honestly, I'm 100% aware that my opinions are completely biased. If this was a film set anywhere else, I probably wouldn't favour it so highly. But because I have that very strong emotional connection, I love it so much. So the description from IMDb doesn't go into too much detail, and I think I'm going to keep my description of the narrative quite vague, because I don't really want to spoil too much. But I will say that this is based on a true story, which, if you didn't know that when watching it, it's quite enjoyable anyway. But once you find out that it is actually based in part on a true story, then it's quite emotional. And I'll kind of discuss that true story a little bit once I've done probably rambling on about the film. I'll try and be coherent, but I get very excited about this one. So the description is as follows. An American widow finds unexpected love with a man living wild on Hampstead Heath when they take on the developers who want to destroy his home. So basically we have Donald Horner, played by Brendan Gleeson, who is living on Hampstead Heath, and as the description said, the developers want to come along, tell him to go away and use the plot. It's important to note that he has been living there for a long time. I can't remember exactly how long it is in the film. I'm sure they did mention how long he's been staying there, but it's not like he's just a random person who's pitched up a tent and has been there for a few days. It got to the point where him leaving would be an eviction. And it's partly about Emily, Diane Keaton's relationship with Donald as it develops, and also partly about people in the community working to save his home and save his life. Bearing in mind, the way he lives, he wants for nothing. He doesn't take any money from the government or anything like that. He lives independently. The only thing is that he sometimes, probably often, takes fish from the river when you're not meant to. From the pond, you're meant to put them back in. But, you know, he's a really good character. He's a really nice guy, and he's very, very likeable. And I will say it takes some quite emotional turns. The narrative is not predictable, for the most part. But I feel like the emotional journey is even less predictable, as one moment you're laughing, the next minute you want to cry. It's a beautiful journey. It's not a comedy. It is a drama. Well, I feel like it's being marketed as a comedy as well, but I feel like it's more comic relief. But there are times when it's quite funny, particularly through Jason Watkins, who I love. I mean, I love him in anything, but I particularly enjoyed his performance in this. Great casting, great characters. It's not 100% true to the best of my knowledge. It is partially based on Harry Hallowes, also known as Harry the Hermit, and he lived on the Heath for a very, very long time, and he actually left his plot of land to homeless charities. He died in 2016. Obviously this film being released in 2017, a very quick emotional turnaround there. In terms of how much of this was filmed in Hampstead, a decent amount actually was. You can spot quite a lot of local locations if you live here. There's a particular moment where Diane Keaton is, she goes into the Oxfam charity shop that's on Gayton Road. And there are other bits and pieces that you would recognise around the Heath and things. So if you aren't familiar with Hampstead, I think it gives you a relatively decent impression of what the area is actually like. Also kind of looking forward to watching this in, say, 10, 20 years' time and seeing how the area has changed. Because obviously changes are gradual and you kind of forget what things used to be like. If you are not from Hampstead, I think you'll still love it. It's a beautiful film, very well told in terms of the narrative. Obviously great casting and acting, very emotive, very moving, quite funny when it needs to be. I honestly, the editing is great as well. I can't fault it. My favourite thing is that the cinema in Hampstead, the Everyman, instead of having the name Hampstead on the outside saying what they were playing, it just said, yes, we are showing it. Absolutely loved it. Brilliant bit of marketing. Great film. Thoroughly enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. And, I promise you'll fall in love with Hampstead just from what you see and hear. A bit of it was filmed in Highgate as well. I expect a chunk was filmed in sound stages as well. I really love it. I was so nervous watching it the first time. I have seen it several times, of course. The first time I watched it, I was very nervous. Wasn't really sure if I'd like it. Because, sometimes when you're so in love with something, that nothing will ever be good enough. But not only is Hampstead good enough, it's better than that. It's really well done, and I would recommend it to absolutely everybody.